Now, in terms of a communication book, which was mentioned before, you can create a communication book. They come in different sizes and different formats. So you would have to think what would be the best thing for your um, person, loved one with aphasia. So here are some things to think about. How big will it be? I don't recommend going too small because then it gets really hard to use. But smaller is portable. So it's up to you. I wouldn't go bigger than a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, but I wouldn't go too small. You also have to wonder about is it something that should lie flat? And so if they only have use of one hand, that they can turn it over. Um, you have to ask yourself how many pictures you will put per page. I recommend that you label pictures underneath with the name of it. If they have visual issues, bigger pictures, in general, the more severe the aphasia, the less you want to put on a page. You don't want to overcrowd it. What do you want in there? Again, it depends on each person, but maybe things that they use every day, vocabulary like action words, people, places, um, greetings, social exchanges, um, feelings and emotions, very important. Sometimes symptoms, if they're not feeling well, they can point to the symptom that they have. Um, Food and drinks, body parts, things of that nature. Communication books with this kind of content are often made in hospital by a speech language pathologist if they feel it's appropriate for the person with aphasia. And they often use very practical, functional terms. There could be a picture of a toilet so the person can point and indicate that they want to go to the washroom. When people go leave the hospital and go home, sometimes this book continues to get used, but sometimes it's over time it's not the same issues that are really important, and so it may at that point end up in a drawer because the hospital-based issues aren't the same as the home-based issues. You can make your own communication book. It can be low tech or high tech, depending on your comfort with technology. Low tech, you can simply take photos and cut out pictures from magazines and, with glue or tape, basically you're kind of making your own scrapbook. And you can paste these things in and make your own. If you are comfortable with technology, or if you have a friend or a family member who is, this might be a good time to ask for help. This is something they can maybe help with. They could scan family photos in, and they could do it on computer. Now, I mentioned a life history book. At aphasia centers and community aphasia programs, we often make what we call a life history book for someone because sometimes they want to talk about their families. They want to tell people who may be visiting about something they did in their past. They may want to refer to their past. And so a life history book looks a little bit like this. Now, for confidentiality reasons, I can't use a real person from the Aphasia Center of Ottawa. So we've chosen a famous person. And here we have Queen Elizabeth II. I can assure you this is not a political statement. It's not a pro or anti-monarchy choice. It's just someone that most people know. And so I don't think she will let you call her Liz, but this is how it is. Hello, my name's Elizabeth, but you can call me Liz. This is my life history book. So it usually starts off with a recent photo of the person. And often there are things about the person's past. So here in 1945, I was joined by the British Army as a truck mechanic. This is when I learned to drive. In 1953, I started my career in government. This is my husband, Philip. We met when I was only 13 years old, and it was love at first sight. And wedding pictures, we see those kinds of things in life history books. We also see hobbies. And so it's, a bit funny in Queen Elizabeth's situation. She loves to collect jewelry that's been passed down to her through the years. And she takes a lot of pride in choosing her outfit. So you see, you can do a combination of photos. They can be, again, low tech. They can be glued into a book if you want, or if you're comfortable or you know someone who is, you could scan the photos and you could also integrate photos from the internet. So for instance, if someone has a hobby where they like to knit, but you don't have a picture of them knitting, you could, from the internet, just take a picture of knitting needles and some knitting and put that in there. You can put maps in as well to show maybe where someone was born, particularly if they're an immigrant. That can be a nice self-affirming tool and also really useful, particularly pictures of extended family. People with aphasia often have trouble finding the name of the person they want to talk about. If you had the life history book with lots of family pictures, they could point to the person in the photo. I would recommend writing the name of each person under each photo as well. That's really helpful. A few final tips. Each person with aphasia is different. So Karen has given you tips, I've given you tips. You're going to have to experiment and find what works because not everything is perfect for every person. You can, for instance, get someone's wallet all set up the way I was suggesting, and some people will use it and some people won't. You'll just have to see what works. Don't forget to take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. If these tips that we're giving you, for instance, telling you how to make a communication book, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, one more thing I have to do and I'm so exhausted, I give you permission not to make a communication book, all right? Very important for you, especially if you're a caregiver, to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you cannot help your loved one with aphasia. Perfection isn't possible. Please ask for help. You probably want to think of something concrete to ask people because a vague request for help is probably less likely to be useful than if you ask them something specific. And the last thing, and probably the most important thing, is that the relationship between you and your loved one is more important than having perfect communication. There's no such thing as perfect communication, even without aphasia, and certainly when there's aphasia involved, things are challenging. But if you can work on that relationship, the respect, and the caring, that's the most important part. A few resources for you that might be useful. You might check out the Champlain Regional Stroke Network website, our website at Aphasia Center of Ottawa, Aphasia Institute. If you go to the resources section, there are some resources available. You might look and see if you think that there's something that would be useful for you there. And also Speech Language and Audiology Canada has information on its website.